What's your 9? I guess it's not Last Jedi because you kind of gave a look, but what's number 9?
Oh, this is where I get canceled.
Greetings and hello there, everybody. It's me, your beloved Star Wars dad, Nooch Too Good, here with another collab. It's been a few months, but with Calvin Awesome, and unfortunately I have my like and subscribe over your face because I forgot to remove it. But now we get here. We were just discussing his boyish Carth Onassi good looks. It's good to see you, sir. How you doing, Calvin?
I'm doing great and doing the best I can with the genetics my parents gave me. But yeah, happy to be here. Happy to talk anything Star Wars and including Carth Onassi.
Yeah, let me say, buddy, those are some solid genetics. So congratulations.
I'll pass on the message.
My congratulations to your parents. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do, guys. You know that Gerbil and I have been talking to a lot of creators lately about ranking movies, and we record at weirdly weird times a day, so it doesn't work for everybody. So Calvin and I have been kind of talking about what can we talk about, and you know, I think the challenge, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, we kind of talk about all this stuff on your channel already, so it's like, what else is there to get together? And you don't want to force a conversation about something that's not there, right?
Oh, and I quite frankly, I'm a Star Wars fan first. Like, the game has a lot of things that do appeal to me. So when you brought up the idea about talking about the movies and ranking stuff like that, I eat that up all day. I'll go and do anything with anyone if we get to talk about Star Wars.
So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna rank the movies 11 through 1 with Calvin Awesome. He says he's got some juicy stuff. Let's find out. What's your number 11 movie, Calvin?
Oh, number 11, like dead last?
We want to start at the bottom. We got to build to the fun stuff, right?
Oh, okay. Well, this shit is going to be pretty easy. And it's not that different, I don't think, but it's a little bit different than most, and it's going to be The Force Awakens, Episode 7.
Now, why? So you're right. It is a little different because I go with Rise of Skywalker because it physically is the worst
Most
picture.
would, yep.
So why do you go with? Because I usually put Force Awakens higher because I can actually stomach watching it, but it sounds like maybe it's not your favorite thing. But so why is that your bottom?
So I think for two reasons. Number one, I think I had a very similar feeling to that of what a lot of the original trilogy fans had when they came in and they watched The Phantom Menace. And basically my expectations were with the new trilogy was that we were going to be getting something new, something that was going to add a lot of context to everything. And if we get in there, or I get in there, and we're about halfway through the movie and I'm like, this is identical. And I'm a pretty, I don't know how to say this, easy fan. Like, I have a tendency to be, what's the word that we throw around for someone who's like kind of a brown noser for the industry?
You're a Star Wars film honk, or or shill would be the word.
Shill,
right?
yeah. Like I'm pretty typically a Star Wars shill. Like, I agree. Like, I like most things that come out. Anyways, halfway through the movie, really am just not liking it. Because all they really did, from what I could tell, is they took the story that had already ended, rebooted it up with really no explanation. Like, all right, Luke did this amazing thing where him and Anakin, they defeated the Empire. Awesome, great. And then all of a sudden, the First Order's here. They're significantly larger than the Empire was. Also, they have a weapon that is considerably stronger than the Death Star. And to figure it out, it's like wildly simple. And whereas you look at the original trilogy with the first Death Star, we have to have a whole movie explaining how they got the plans to destroy that, but very well done. Rogue One's going to be much higher up in the list. And then they just like kind of hold a gun to Phasma's head and like it's that easy. So those are my big issues with it. It added pretty much nothing, and it had a lot of setup with really no plan, which I think that's most people's critique with the sequel trilogy, is that it wasn't thought out. And that's honestly like it really blew up in their face here. But if you look at Star Wars as a whole, most of it isn't always super well thought out, like at least from a detail point of view.
Yeah. It's not Marvel, right? It's not what Marvel used to be, I should say, where everything was like step by step by step. But I get it. I understand, man. I gotta be honest. I didn't really pick up on a lot of that. I think when I first started thinking it when I was at the movie was when they pulled up the map of the Death Star and Han says, well, we did it before a couple times. And it's like, oh, God, yeah, I guess kind of is. But to me, the entertainment value of that movie is much higher than the other two prequels, and that's why I really enjoy it a little bit more. But so I'm coming with Rise of Skywalker at 11. What's your number 10 movie then? I'm gonna guess we're gonna stay in the same range. Would be my assumption here.
Yeah, it's Rise of Skywalker.
Okay.
And Rise of Skywalker, I don't like it at all. I do give it a little bit more grace because I think they were just between a rock and a hard place as to what they could do with it. Not just with the story of what happened with like the conflicts of 7 and 8, but also like, rest in peace, Carrie Fisher. I know that they wanted to not dedicate, but they wanted to have her have a really big part in that movie. Kind of Han was like the central theme of 7. Luke was the central theme of 8, at least from, past characters. And she was going to be one of the bigger parts of 9. And like you can just only do so much. Like how do you be respectful to the family and at the same time just keep the story going when she was supposed to have a really critical role in it? So do I like it? Do I like watching it? Not really, but I understand what they had to work with.
Yeah, and I'll bring in. I'm going to come up with Last Jedi there. I'm guessing that's going to be next up for you. I'm guessing. I don't know, but I'm going to give a little bit of a critique there. You rolled your eyes a little bit with that. Mm-hmm. So I know that they kind of let Carrie Fisher die, but they still didn't have a plan, right? Like they kind of had this plan for Carrie Fisher, but Rian Johnson kind of blew the whole thing up in the middle, and the whole story, it seems like it went from one story to another. It's like they feel like three independent movies that aren't really tightly related, other than you have the same characters in each one, but the flow of them doesn't feel the same. So for me, it's Last Jedi. I will say, and I will stick by this, I really don't mind the final scene of Last Jedi where the way Luke dies and the way that he astral projects, which to me was a new Force ability, which which was new to the early Star Wars movies all introduced new Force abilities every time. You went from very simple stuff in A New Hope, which was my first movie I ever saw. Then Empire Strikes Back took it a step further, and then you had Force Lightning in Return of the Jedi, which was brand new. And so I liked that, and I kind of liked the Rey. I like the idea of Rey and Kylo being a dyad. They just left a lot on the floor there. But to me, the whole, the entire Canto Bight thing, the entire storyline for Poe and Finn and Rose was a complete, it just should never have been made. And when you get to the movie and they haven't accomplished anything, it's like, clearly it should never have been. They accomplished nothing with everything they did, accomplished absolutely zero in that movie. And that was my beef with Last Jedi. So that's why it comes in 10 for me. So what's your 9? I guess it's not Last Jedi because you kind of gave a look, but what's number 9?
Oh, this is where I get canceled.
Well, so wait, hold on. I want to assure you, other people have been canceled. We've already had we had Celiac Sarah canceled because she loves the sequels, and we had Bit Dynasty canceled because he's got Revenge of the Sith down here at the bottom because they killed his hero, and so okay. Just you'll be all right. So let's hear what it is.
So you have to understand the context of how old I was when I saw this movie, and about how a lot of the better themes went. Well, I recognize that cinematically it is an amazing movie, but yeah, it's Empire Strikes Back.
Holy God, yeah, I might cancel you.
I mean, it's notoriously known as the best Star Wars movie, and I get that, and I respect it. But when I watched it as a kid, alongside of A New Hope or Return of the Jedi, as well as Episode 1 would have been around the time that I was a really little kid too, I found Empire Strikes Back, it had a lot of more, and I don't mean inappropriate, but a lot more mature themes with this concept of like Luke is fighting against the dark side. He kind of sees himself in Vader in that scene. As a kid, I found it very confusing, dark. I didn't get it. I didn't like it. And a lot of those emotions have stuck with me throughout time. So I enjoy watching it. I like it for the most part. When I go to watch a movie from an enjoyment perspective, it's not really there. I much rather prefer from the original trilogy A New Hope, as well as Return of the... Again, we'll get to it later, but Return of the Jedi actually has a really big place for me.
So speaking as a guy who saw Empire Strikes Back in the theaters when I was 10 years old, or not, it might have been 8. I think I was 8, yeah. And then I watched it relentlessly on repeat on VHS. It's tough for me to swallow, but like I said, I'm kind of learning... what I'm kind of learning through doing all this is that we've got a broad tent of Star Wars fans, right? People that just enjoy... different people from different generations. The prequels, when they came out, my generation hated those things like nobody's business. Yeah. And we thought Anakin was horrible, and we were like, and I'm still convinced that there's going to be a generation of people that love the sequels that's coming up, and everybody's going to freak out when that happens. So, yeah, it's fine, man. I mean, Empire's my number one. I'll just say it right. I mean, I've talked about this before on my channel, so everybody's familiar with it. So, but you know what? I still love you, buddy. You're still aces in my book, man.
And Nooch, I will say, I live for the day, and I know we both kind of like put the sequel trilogy pretty low at the bottom. I live for the day where I'm middle-aged and above, and I get to talk or argue or debate or whatever with some 20-year-olds on, I don't know if it'll be Discord or Reddit or whatever online forum about how the sequel trilogy was the best, and they will have all this insight that will, I think, will blow me away, and I live for that moment.
Yeah, or that'd be awesome. Or tell you how Ahsoka was a good show. So, side note, sorry about that. So, and my number 9 is Attack of the Clones. I just find it, the love stuff is, there's a lot of really cool stuff, but in the middle of all the cool stuff is absolute, just complete cinematic garbage. So anyway, so what, and again, I'm not going to go deep in that, but the love stuff, it's so bad. It's so bad. So what's your number 8?
Number 8 is probably going to be, and again, I like the movie, but Solo is probably number 8 for me. I think pretty good movie. It just feels still very disconnected from a lot of the rest of the universe, and I can get into it, but it's almost like I want more from a sense, because every other movie that we have is either a part of a trilogy or Rogue One, which is pretty. I mean, you can watch it directly into A New Hope almost seamlessly. So yeah, I mean, good. I just doesn't do a lot for me there.
That's a really good point. I had never thought of that, actually, that's the one movie that actually doesn't tie to anything else. Like there's not a show. I'm sure there's books, but there's just nothing else. Yeah, I'm the same. Solo's number 8 for me, but at number 8 for me, I like Solo. I had a lot of fun watching it, and I would go watch it again today. And I think it got a really bad knock because it came out after Last Jedi, and everybody was kind of angry at the time. I really like Alden Ehrenreich a lot. There was some stuff that's a little bit off, and yeah, we got to explain everything about Han Solo in 2 hours, his entire origin for everything. But I mean, I liked Indiana Jones being explained in 10 minutes in Last Crusade, so I was okay. I like Solo, and I really enjoyed it, and I'd watch it again today, but it's my number 8 as well. So but I think it's a really good point, is that we don't have anything else, and we're not going to get those same characters. I don't see Woody Harrelson coming back, and I don't see, what's her name, Kira? What's her real name?
I should know this too.
Yeah, somebody tell me the Game of Thrones. Tell me her name. So, all right, what's number 7 for you?
Oh, number 7. I stopped thinking. No. It's probably Rogue One.
Wow.
Oh no! I take that back. I forgot the one. It is The Last Jedi.
Okay, and that's fair. And I mean, any differences of what I said earlier? I mean, did you enjoy the Canto Bight stuff?
So actually, no, that's a complete negative. We're much in agreement there. But I went to go see. I only really saw the sequels in theaters. I was too young for a lot of the other ones. But one of my big issue with 7 was it just felt like a complete remake. It felt like a cash grab. It felt like, and this is gonna sound weird, it almost felt like they were trying to cover up the prequels in a way by really honing in on the original trilogy. So when The Last Jedi came out, I came in with really low expectations of what I thought the movie was going to be. I thought it was going to be a cut and paste once again of our
Empire,
which again, that's not meant as not an Empire. I didn't want another remake. I'm like, all right, so she's going to go with Luke. It's going to be the same as Yoda. She's going to get her hand cut off, and we're just going to drive this out to episode 6. So we get about halfway through the movie, and I'm like, all right, this is whatever, fine. We're halfway, or maybe not even halfway through, and Kylo kills Snoke, and something in me just lit up. I'm like, oh, this just got real, and I don't know, I got really pumped. And then immediately after that, on that same emotion, we get the throne room fight, which is probably the best fight in the whole sequel trilogy, which I guess might talk a lot about the sequel trilogy. But they had that whole fight. I loved every minute of it. And then this, and you already talked about it. One of my favorite things, and I think the piece of Star Wars content that has done this the best has been in the Old Republic or in KOTOR, is the really deep, complex inner workings of the Force. So this concept of a Force dyad, of how them being tied to each other and them having visions with each other, and they can almost feel each other on a different level than, two normal Force users could. I just eat that stuff up, and it actually did play out pretty well. And the Rise of Skywalker with Palpatine actually being able to feed off of that energy. So I love that type of stuff, like Nihilus, like his relationship with the Force, or like Traya, like wanting to defeat the Force. Like to me, that's the best there is. But yeah, so that's kind of where it ranks.
Yeah, we're on the same page there. Yeah, I really like that diet, but yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say 100% agree with the Cantabite. Waste of time. Didn't really advance the story, and just I understand that we have to work with coincidences every now and then, but like the whole Cantabite thing was just too far out there.
And it was weird. It was like, at the end of the day, why didn't they just go sneak on the ship? I mean, if you're going to do... I feel like they did that whole scene just because they're like, well, we have to put some other planets in here. We can't just have everything in space on these ships. Like, well, find a way to do it and find a way to make it interesting, you know? Just sneak on the ship and be sneaking around the ship the whole time. Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, so number 7 and number 6 kind of flip back and forth for me. I'm really on what am I on? Phantom Menace is in there for me, and then my brain's not working. I had it. What have I not named so far? Last Jedi, Solo. I don't know, but we'll say Phantom
maybe?
Menace. What? Say it again.
No, I'll say Rogue One, maybe. I don't know.
No, Rogue One's higher for me. So that I'm gonna bring in Phantom Menace at 7, and it's gained a lot of traction over the years. I would have ranked it a lot lower, possibly. You know, I guess there weren't 11 movies, but you know, when I first saw it, I remember walking out of the theater and trying to justify the movie with my best friend, because we grew up watching Star Wars together, and I'm like, well, this was kind of cool, and that was kind of cool, and the only thing that really ended up hitting us was the lightsaber duel at the end, and everything else was just kind of there. But over time, I think, you know, like Jar Jar has gained a lot of weight over time, and now a lot of positive weight. He's not that big muscly guy in your thumbnail today, but but you know, Jar Jar now is something that people love, and at the time it was more of a hate thing. So you know, anyway. Well, what comes in at number 6 for you?
Number 6 is probably going to be Rogue One, and I should preface this with, I mean, 6 through 1, it's not an understatement to say I love all of these movies. Like I come back to these consistently. So yeah, Rogue One, I think it might be the only Star Wars movie that did everything perfectly. And it ranks lower on the list for me just because I don't have as much affinity with it, because it works with a lot of different characters that I might not have a close relationship or be able to relate to in a lot of ways. But ultimately, just really good film, really well put together. And it kind of fulfilled all my expectations and a little more. I was really wanting going into, I'm like, all right, everyone has to die. like don't go for the cash grab. A bunch of sequels, and they're kind of doing it in the right way with going with prequels out of it with the Cassian series and whatnot. But yeah, I think they did everything right. I think it was really true to Star Wars. I think it fits in very neatly with The New Hope. Just lots of good stuff all around. The hallway scene was obviously great. Yeah,
I agree. I love Rogue One. I think it's an amazing movie. And I think you're right. They did do it. It's just a big tragedy. It's just one big tragedy.
Yep.
And then for me in the theater, when the hallway scene comes out at the end, I was a giddy little schoolboy when that happened, and which, to be honest, I was kind of a giddy little schoolboy in Attack of the Clones when Yoda started jumping around with a lightsaber too. Mm-hmm. But anyway, well, my number 6 is The Force Awakens. That was what I was actually trying to. So, Phantom Menace, Force Awakens. I can go back and forth. They're both movies I would watch again. Han Solo to me really carries Force Awakens, and I actually think Rey is interesting. It's just the problem is they never took her anywhere after that. You know, Rey and Finn are interesting characters. I'm not sure Poe was ever super interesting, but the problem is they kind of just left Rey and Finn where they never really developed any. We didn't, and shockingly, it seems like we could have learned a lot more. Well, I know we could have learned a lot more about Finn. In fact, Finn just kept saying, "I have something to tell you," and never told her anything in the last movie. But even Rey, you know, we just didn't learn. So Force Awakens is number 6 for me. So what's coming in at number 5 for you?
I will tack on to yours a little bit. I do really liked how the sequel trilogy developed Kylo's character. I think Adam Driver pulled that off very well. I heard it in an interview. I don't even remember who it was, but they were saying the whole idea behind Kylo was to be the reverse of Vader, in the sense that you see Vader in Episode 4. He is a very confident, very evil, very menacing, very intimidating, very cutthroat, I guess is what I'm going for. And as the trilogy progresses, he gets softer and softer and softer, Whereas we see Kylo, we see the opposite. In the very beginning, like very conflicted with who he is, who he's supposed to be, what he's supposed to do, and who he's supposed to follow. And by the end of it, he is almost to the point of menacing and intimidating that his, grandfather would have been towards the end there. So I think they did really well with that. But you said are we at 5 now?
We're at 5 now, yes.
So 5 now probably has to be A New Hope. Again, a lot of things are solid about it. It did a very good job of introducing us all to the universe. I think one of the best things they did was open it up with Darth Vader rather than kind of explain, oh yeah, this is Luke, and then Darth Vader comes in later. Like that, they're setting the scene because Darth Vader isn't just Luke's antagonist. He's the universe's antagonist. Like it's not that Luke has some guy out there who's after them. It's that this is Darth Vader's universe and Luke is living in it.
Yeah.
And they did that really well. I think the pacing of it overall was really well done. I think Luke was a relatable character in a lot of ways of him wanting. He has these family ties. He wants to go off on his own and do his own thing. He's aware of larger presences in the galaxy. But almost kind of emotional on certain aspects. So yeah, really enjoyed A New Hope all the way around.
Yeah, we'll talk about New Hope, but my number 5 is Rogue One, and that's not a bad thing. I love Rogue One, and I love everything that you said about it. It's the same thing, and it's just such a great movie. And I love the fact that they came back and they explained the exhaust port, but not in it wasn't like in a, they didn't have to work their way around.
Weird. You didn't have to stop it.
Yeah, it made a lot of sense. It's that's why this was there, and we weren't even worried about it, right? We just knew there was an exhaust port, and they blew it up. But it's hey, it was purposely designed in there, and you got to get this to them, and it just tied in perfectly. So Rogue One comes in at number 5 for me, but the hallway scene might be number 1 for me. I don't know. I'd have to really think about that. So, how about number 4?
Number 4 is Attack of the Clones, and this is where my age shows wildly clear, because overall from a movie perspective, it's bad. Like the CGI they were using, it was very experimental at the time, wasn't doing all that good. A lot of the romance, the dialogue, a lot of that was very clunky, didn't really quite fit in super well. But overall, I think it does have a lot of really redeemable parts.
I agree.
What is it called? The stadium fight. I forget the name of the stadium, but where all those monsters and clones and Jedi, getting to see the Jedi actually really do their own thing. And, of course, we get more to that in the Clone Wars series, but actually getting to see them being a force to be reckoned with in the universe was really well. Seeing Anakin's development was good too. I know that he got a lot of criticism at the time for it, but I think he really resembled what a conflicted, emotional, powerful teenager would have actually looked like when he's kind of trapped between a rock and a hard place as to what he's wanting to do with his future.
Yeah, I get it. It's just and for me, the opening scene is great. With Zam Wessel, the scenes, the Camino scene with Jango Fett is great, and the final scenes are really good. It's just Anyway, so I get it. My number 4 is Return of the Jedi. It's the one that rounded off for me when I was a kid. And what's interesting to me is over time the lore around what Luke making his decisions, sacrificing himself for the good of the his virtue actually saves the galaxy. Like, it's not his fighting skill, it's not his ability to use the Force.
Yep.
It's just the fact that he's willing to throw it all away that actually saves his dad, which saves the galaxy. And I'll be honest, for probably 20 years I never really thought. I thought about that on some level, but it wasn't really examined as much, but I think that gives it even more gravitas today. But I love Return of the Jedi. It's number 4 for me. How about your number 3, man?
Oh, that works out quite nicely because Return of the Jedi is number 3 for me. And again, so there's a few things with this, but you have to remember I was a very young kid watching this movie. It was on a VH tape that was my dad's that he had for who knows how long. And it's a very clear and very, very happy ending, really. Yes, Anakin or Vader ends up dying in the end, but he gets to have this comeback to the light. And I just feel like it feels magical watching a lot of it to me. Getting to see Luke and Emperor Palpatine and Darth Vader, all of their silhouettes. I can see them from a mile away. How everything was put together. I know that there are some parts of the movie that I've heard some critiques about it, of the opening sequence, none of that was necessary, whatever. I'm like, was cool though. Like that was a really good action scene of working things in. We actually kind of got to see Boba Fett do a lot more fighting.
And
But
dying.
yeah, and dying too. Well, sort of,
dying,
yeah. And really, what is deeper even there too is my relationship with Star Wars actually stems a lot of my relationship with my own dad. So you have this whole Luke Darth Vader thing going on, and it's probably a top 3 saying for me in the entire series of when Luke turns away, like you said, he really calls in the virtue, and he says, you know, I'm a Jedi like my father before me. To me, that's Star Wars. And
I agree.
I have a really strong connection with it.
Yeah, and I think a really large number of people, really large percentage of this population was introduced to this by their dad or by their, their uncle, their big brother, or whatever, and it becomes a family thing. And you might be interested. Return of the Jedi was really considered the least of the 3 movies for forever. I mean, and even after the sequels came out, it was like Return of the Jedi was just, it's like the Ewoks were just cute and fluffy. It was just merchandising and everything. But and really, I really think they did Princess Leia dirty. Like they really softened her way too much. Like, in A New Hope, she's very like bam, bam, in your face, hilarious, witty, funny. And the same thing, Empire Strikes Back. She's just like she's making fun of Han the whole time. And Return of the Jedi, she just turns into this softy. She has nothing nasty to say about anybody, and it was kind of really unfortunate when you look back on it. But I get it. I mean, I love Return of the Jedi, so I can't argue with that. My number 3 is Revenge of the Sith. You get to see Darth Vader transformation. You get to, and I think Hayden Christensen and Anakin Skywalker's character is much better in Revenge of the Sith than in Attack of the Clones. There's still so much clunky dialogue. From my point of view, the Jedi are evil. Yeah, dummy. Nobody says that. Nobody. From my point of view, Revenge of the Sith is number 3. It's like we know, dude. But there's so many great things and so many iconic stuff that's come out of that movie that I love it, and I'd watch any day. And the final lightsaber battle is clearly the best. If you just want to look at one-on-one, it is awesome. Those two put together, and it has nobody's even come close since. I mean, the stuff we're watching now is basically Hayden Christensen holding him back from really hurting Rosario Dawson. But I loved that lightsaber battle at the end of Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, so that was, I mean, you bring up Hayden Christensen with Rosario Dawson. I couldn't really figure out why I felt like the prequel lightsaber fights were just better than a lot of, especially what's coming out in the new shows as far as lightsabers goes. And I don't know what it is. I'm not really good at cinematography, but it's literally just swordsmanship. Like seeing Hayden Christensen in Ahsoka with other actors that don't have what he has. Oh my gosh.
I think that's right.
He is so good with a lightsaber. And granted, like if you like watch the behind the scenes of the prequel trilogy, they put them through like a ridiculous amount of martial arts classes to be able to know how to do this stuff. So it's not without training and whatnot, but still, like it's so quick, so stable, so fluid, his movements. Very, very impressive.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And yeah, they put a lot more work into that in the prequels than they ever did in the original trilogy or the sequels, I'm sure. There's a level of athleticism that he has and speed that you can just tell he has a lot more that he could have given in those, but that's fine. It was whatever. Ahsoka's not my favorite show, but we're not here to talk about shows. We'll do shows at different times. So, what's your number 2?
And then this is where things get not as spicy as Empire being completely last, but it's going to be number 2 is Revenge of the Sith. So very much along your lines. And again, so this came out in 2005, so I was very young when this came out, and I just remember like waiting for this moment, and I couldn't really go see it in theaters because I was too young, and it was like PG-13, and my parents were concerned, and there were the whole youngling killing scene. Anyways, but when I did see it, it was everything that I could have hoped for more. Tons of nonstop action, and that's I think what differentiates it a little bit from the previous two, is it has a lot more fluid action. It feels like the movie itself kind of moves together a little bit better.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, it feels like they finally got the CGI stuff right. And again, I know that were leading in it in a lot of ways. Like what they did with Jar Jar is ultimately what paved the road for Smeagol and stuff like that. But I feel like they finally got it right. within episode 3. And then and the Clone Wars continues on with me as I got older as well. There are parts of my I would say my character that are rooted in a lot of what Obi-Wan said to Anakin at Mustafar, like the emotion that he had behind it, the principle that he had behind it, and really, and I see this a lot again in the Clone Wars. So kind of shifting gears here a little bit, like the things that Obi-Wan says to Maul in the Clone Wars and Rebels, like those, I hold those near and dear to my heart. Like when Maul is bragging about his power or whatever, and Obi-Wan kind of has this perspective of discipline. He's like, look at what I've risen above, or when he makes comments like the people who reject the dark side will be stronger than you ever will be. Like that kind of comparison as to how he views light and dark. And there is some of that in Revenge of the Sith too that is, I just love.
Yeah. I think we can all point to that, as a kid growing up watching A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, the Yoda, I mean, everything that comes out of that guy's mouth is something that can guide you in life, right? And I think you do learn. I think it does forge who you are as a person. So I think that's really good observation. And my number 2 is A New Hope. For me, it's the first movie I ever saw in a theater. I actually saw it in a drive-in theater, believe it or not, back in the day my dad took us in the brown station wagon, me and my sister. We tried to sit on the hood because we wanted to be outside because it was too warm in the car, but then we couldn't hear it. I went to the bathroom during the trash compactor scene. I remember all these things vividly happening. And then I went out and bought my first Star Wars figures because I had money saved in my piggy bank. And we were looking around. The only ones we could find, because they were all sold out, was C-3PO and Darth Vader. I couldn't find anything else. And C-3PO's limbs stuck together, so my mom had to, I thought she was going to break it. Anyway, A New Hope for me is what really started my journey with Star Wars, but my journey with movies. I love going to the movies. And it started with that one experience back in 1977 when I was 5 years old that just made me fall in love with the movies. And ever since, when that's our family activity, it always was. Let's go see a movie. Let's go to Harry Potter. Let's go to, Captain America. Let's go see Star Wars. Let's go see Lord of the Rings, even just whatever, Anchorman, whatever. So for me, it started my journey of the movies and my favorite entertainment and everything. So A New Hope is number 2 for me, only because I'll do my number 1 so we can do your number 1 last. So my number 1 is Empire Strikes Back. I think it's the greatest film ever made. It is so character driven and it's so revelatory, and the twist at the time at the end, it was the greatest twist, and it's maybe still is the greatest twist ever in a movie ever, aside from maybe Shawshank Redemption, which I think is an incredible film. So have you seen Shawshank Redemption?
I have seen it multiple times.
All right. So the twist at the end of Shawshank Redemption, I think is the top. But to me, Empire Strikes Back, when you get to the end of the movie and it's already a great movie, and you throw in this giant twist of "I am your father," and for you guys watching the prequels, that's not really a surprise, right? But for those of us back then, it was like, I remember telling my dad, I think he's lying, and my dad was like, he's not lying. You're just a kid. Wake up. This is the deal. But yeah, it was such a big deal. And Darth Vader in the movie theater scared the bejeebers out of me. I mean, it was actually like a horror film for me. Every time Darth Vader came in, he was really huge and really ominous and really scary. So it goes A New Hope, then Empire Strikes Back for me. And I wouldn't fault myself if I flipped them back and forth every now and then. So let's hear your number 1 movie, Calvin Awesome.
So this one, I probably didn't even realize it was my favorite until the last couple of years. I would have traditionally ranked Revenge of the Sith at number 1 just because I have probably seen it, not kidding, somewhere around 1,000 times just because I used to go to sleep watching it. But number 1 is, for very almost exact reasons of Years of New Hope, is The Phantom Menace, because George Lucas, when he went out to write that movie, I think his goal, he probably had a lot, but one of his goals was, I need to get the new generation for Star Wars. And he aimed and he struck home. Like I still do. I love every single bit of it. I love Jar Jar. I love Anakin. I love pod racing. And actually my favorite character at the time, I remember, and I think some of the critiques have kind of gotten this right. When I was a kid, I didn't want to be Anakin. I wanted to be Obi-Wan. That was kind of what I looked up to. And the Duel of Fates, and this is probably more of a credit to, is it John Williams, right?
Yeah, John Williams.
Than anyone else. The score for Duel of Fates, I get goosebumps just talking about it. It was so wonderfully done. And especially when you're a kid, you don't understand a lot of advanced concepts in cinematography like pacing, which was where Phantom Menace really kind of crapped the bed. At least kind of objectively speaking, there you don't notice that at all when you're 4, 5, 6 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
And Darth Maul, to me, I don't really know why, but he was a much scarier, menacing character than comparing to Darth Vader, because Darth Vader would at least talk. He would at least negotiate. Maul had no lines, and for whatever reason, that just made him all the... And his face was just really scary. So growing up with all that, I loved the character of... I still do. It's actually probably one of the things that's aged best for me about the movie is Qui-Gon's character, everything that he brings to it. And really, his character, I feel like, has only been made more and more and more and more and more valuable throughout time, as you see just how corrupt the Jedi Council and the Galactic Republic were at large. Because him being against it in the beginning, just kind of like, all right, whatever. He's not really, he's whatever, dancing to his own tune, or I don't know the expression. But it was really so much more than that. He saw deep-rooted things that were wrong, and he was really always more tied to the Force than he was to the Jedi.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what separated him.
Yeah, he was right? When you look at Dooku being his master, when we watched the Tales of the Jedi, they were really similar in that, they saw that things were not going right. They chose different directions, but...
They did, yep.
And that's awesome. I think your experience, it's the same as my oldest son had the same experience. He wore out that videotape. I mean, when you got to the lightsaber duel, it was wrecked. It was so, and he would act it out, grabbing onto the door handle and hang on there like Obi-Wan and jump off and slipe.
I did that so many times on a slide at a park. Oh my gosh.
Yep, there you go. So, all right, man, Calvin, I really enjoy this. I'm glad we did this here today. I'm sure people are going to enjoy it. Any parting words about the Star Wars movies or the game or anything else going on, man?
Don't cancel me.
I'm telling you, people had a pretty visceral reaction when, and you could go back and watch it when, oh no, my brain is not working now. When, oh, this is bad. This is bad. I'm gonna get in trouble now. I'm gonna get in trouble.
That's what editing's for, man.
That's what editing. Let me fix this. I can't.
The Dynasty Celiac Sarah.
Yeah, Celiac Sarah. Good night. Okay, hang on. Let me come back. Yeah, people had a really visceral reaction when... Sorry, okay, we want to cut this. People had a really visceral reaction to Celiac Zero when she ranked the movies and she loved the sequels so much. But then Bit Dynasty comes in and throws Revenge of the Sith like down at the bottom. Man, you're not gonna get canceled. But even if you do, whatever, man, you gotta be you. You gotta be true to yourself, right? Yep. Wouldn't Yoda and Obi-Wan tell you that?
Yes.
Okay,
well, unless it endangers the greater good, then don't be yourself.
Yeah, right. Now, Anakin would just go ahead and do it. Yeah, anyway, all right, he's not going to...
Oh, no, that would 100% be Anakin's advice. Yes, do it feels right in the moment. This is what you love. This is what you go after. That's 100%. Yeah, I guess I'm probably in the wrong direction there, but...
Is it pretty? Then chase it. Yes, all right.
Yeah.
All right, Calvin, well, thanks for jumping on today. It's good to spend some time together, and I'm sure we'll get together here in the near future again, so... Yep. Everybody, that's it for today. Have a great day. Thanks to Calvin for jumping on. And always remember, Nooch and Calvin, too good.
Stay awesome.
All right, dude. Thank you. That was actually longer than I thought it'd be. That's good. That'll be fun.